Hey everybody, welcome. Whether you are with me live or watching with the replay, please comment below and let me know that you're here. I want to be able to say hello. Let me get that set up. So there will be times throughout the talk on boundaries today that I am going to ask you to chime in and comment. So again, please do so and we will get started. So since I don't know who might be watching at some point, I want to go ahead and introduce myself. My name is Bonnie Barclay. I'm a therapist in Knoxville, Tennessee, and I am the owner of Creekside Counseling and Wellness here in Knoxville. So while we're talking today, please feel free to grab something to write with. I really want you to leave with some takeaways today for your own personal growth as we work through this boundary issue. So today we are talking about boundaries. My headline was, do you leave the door to your house unlocked? Of course not. Why not? Because if you did, anyone could come and go as they pleased, even unwelcome guests taking what they wanted when they wanted. While it's easy to see we should not leave the front door unlocked, navigating boundaries with others in our life can feel more difficult. Shutting the door creates a physical boundary in our house that separates our private space and belongings from others. It's clear, it creates safety, and it creates a sense of freedom in our home. So I want to introduce you to three types of boundaries: porous or weak boundaries, rigid, and then healthy boundaries. Most people have a mix of the different kinds depending on the situation and the relationship. For example, at work, we might have a combination of rigid or porous boundaries, or healthy and rigid boundaries. And then with family or romantic relationships, we might have a combination of another type of boundary. So let's check out if you have weak boundaries. I'm going to fire off some questions and I want you to see which ones you can relate to. Really, when you're seeing which ones you relate to, not only do I want you to relate on an intellectual or head level, but I also want you to pay attention to your body when we're talking about these and to see if any of these resonate in the body with a reaction, because those are really powerful moments as well. So here's the questions. Do you put everyone first? Do you feel exhausted, unappreciated, resentful? Maybe wonder when it's your turn? Do you find it hard to say no? Feel guilty when you start to take care of yourself? Struggle with asking for what you need, what you want? Do you find yourself compromising your values if it means people will like you, or if it allows you to avoid conflict? Just jot down if you can relate to any of those. So when you hear these questions, comment yes below if you can relate, and also comment if you hear any emotional early warning signs that you need to start setting boundaries. And what do I mean by early emotional warning signs? The ones that I hear when I hear those questions are anger, hurt, guilt, and resentment. And oftentimes these patterns are rooted in childhood. They were survival skills that were useful at the time, served us at the time, but no longer are serving you now. So where do you start? The place that I like to start is to define what's most important to you, the things that you value. Because I think a lot of clients struggle with how they manage their time, I'm going to use an example that talks about what we value and a boundary around time management or our time boundary. So when I talk about values, what I want you to think about is that the things that we value, whether that be faith, whether that be healthy eating, whether that be connection to others, those are the things that we value. And when we use those things that we value to identify our priorities, then the boundaries become easier because we use that to guide how we're going to spend our time and setting up enough time, setting it aside without overcommitting. And that's the key, isn't it? Without overcommitting. So here's the formula for how you begin to use those values to begin to set time boundaries. You start with, I value, so I need to do what? And I will honor this by doing what? So let's walk through this together with an example. So let's say that the value is connecting to other women. So I value connecting to other women. And I will honor this by putting on the calendar as a standing commitment that I want to get involved in a book club, bunko night, whatever it is. And then you commit to that. So can you see how when you define your values, how those begin to make it very clear to manage your time and direct your boundaries? So I want to say, just a minute. Hi, Kay. Thanks for coming in. It's good to see you. Then we're going to go on to the rest of it. So let's say you have this set up every Thursday night for bunko night. And then someone asks you to do something on Thursday. So then what do? Are there times to be flexible? Yes. Put it aside? No. Remember the warning signs, that resentment, the anger, the hurt. They will tell you if your flexibility is now a problem. So let's get into the hard part of setting boundaries, because the values and helping them guide you, that's the good stuff. That's the easy stuff, right? It's easy to figure out what's important to us. But when we set a boundary, there might be pushback. To hold a boundary, what we need is what's called distress tolerance and the support of other boundary setters. So what is this distress tolerance business? In a nutshell, it's getting comfortable with others being uncomfortable or disappointed. So here are some hard truths about boundary setting. Boundaries are not about you. Boundaries are about you. They are not about the other person. That's why I asked you to begin with thinking about what's important to you, your values. Boy, wasn't that a codependent slip. You cannot control someone else's change process. You are using boundaries in an unhealthy way if you are using them to leverage someone else's decisions, leverage someone else's behaviors, or leverage someone else's change process. And sometimes we avoid setting boundaries because we're hoping someone else is going to change so we don't have to set a boundary. But that doesn't always happen for us. So we've got to get comfortable with other people being uncomfortable. You have to decide, is discomfort worth the freedom, the peace, and better relationships? Another hard truth, there may be loss along the way, both temporary and permanent. Another benefit of value-driven boundaries and decisions, they help ground you in the face of loss. So guilt, self-doubt, they don't take over. If you give in, you're likely to experience another loss. You. So to wrap this up for today, I want you to pick 1 to 3 values and explore how you can use them to guide your priorities, to guide your boundaries, to guide your yes and your no. And I want you to ask yourself right now, how can I seize the opportunity to make more meaningful time choices? This is such an important boundary. We live in a culture where we see exhaustion as a badge of honor. This is not okay. It's not healthy personally, professionally, mentally, physically, emotionally. It's just not healthy. So again, how can you seize the opportunity to make more meaningful time choices? So guys, I plan to do this every week, Tuesdays at 3:30. Next time we're going to talk about rigid boundaries, their intended protective purpose, and how to be more flexible to have more intimate and meaningful relationships with others. I hope you'll join me again. Thanks. See you soon. Don't forget to comment. Bye.